How do you guys feel about tomato cages? I don't think I like them. I know I don't like them. I hate the way they fall over when they get tomatoes that are too full. I hate the way they're a pain in the butt to pull out of the ground when you're done at the end of the year. I just hate tomato cages, so I'm trying something different this year. It's an experiment! I've got a side-by-side comparison. I have an equal number of each kind of my tomatoes on each side of this bed. On this side I've got the tomatoes set up with tomato cages, because I have them. This side I'm trying what's called a basket weave, or Florida basket weave support system that uses relatively few poles, and running at about every 6 inches to a foot is a weave of string. And I'm using baling twine because I have a lot of baling twine. The first one's about 6 inches. The next one's about a foot. These are some leftover poles that I had from, I think it was a gazebo. I drilled some holes into it at about 6-inch intervals and threaded screws and nuts just to give me something to wind the twine around. I figured that was easy enough and used something that I had sitting around in the garage. This is how I've got the tomatoes in them. So, strings around the pole. There's one string on each side of the tomato. It's time to add another string. So what am I hoping to do by this side-by-side comparison? I want to see if this holds up the tomatoes as well as the cage does, but still offers them more airflow. I'm also hoping that it gives me easier access to the tomatoes. I kind of hate how in the cage the tomatoes always end up growing on the inside and you have to dig in there to get at them. Talk about tomatoes getting tall. Here's tomatoes getting tomatoey. So there's the age-old question, do you take the suckers off of your tomatoes or not? And most people will say if it's a determinate tomato, you don't need to, and in fact you probably don't want to, because you will reduce the number of tomatoes you get off your plant. Of course, if you know me by now, you know I don't ever follow the rules 100%. I do take suckers off of my determinants, but only to the point where I end up with a bush that's not a monster. And I know that that reduces my yield, but I will have, I think, a healthier plant with it being able to get a little more air around the leaves. Also, by the time it's July, I'm tired of fussing with the garden. I'm over it. So by that point, I just let them keep whatever suckers they've got. Remember, if I showed when I first planted the tomatoes that they're on a fabric and I have holes every, I use the length of my arm to space out my tomatoes. So there's a hole every, whatever this is. It doesn't mean that they won't get weeds, even though there's a weed barrier fabric. Mostly because I put compost on top of to help it hold the mat down, keep some of the sun off. I put it down mostly to protect the mat itself. I think it probably extends the life of the mat if it has a little bit of covering. And at the end of the season, I just pull up the mats and I dump the compost on top of the soil. So it's had another few months to further break down, and it's ready to go on top of the soil. Oh, I don't like cages. The branches always grow underneath the thing that you want them to be over, and then I feel like a brute when I'm going in there and moving it on top. Oh, cages. You're the worst. These ones down at this end are on these stakes that I got from Lee Valley. And these are the San Marzanos, the ones that I saved the seed from last year. So I guess I'm hoping they're San Marzanos. They are definitely indeterminate, so they will grow for sure all the way up to the top of these stakes, probably, and back down. So with these, you want to wind the tomato around the stake, get it while it's still pliable, and that way nothing will break. And I tried these for the first time last year, and they were okay. I wasn't, in love with them or anything, but heck, they worked. I think when the San Marzanos got to the top and then started to work their way all the way back down again, I found that these were not quite as strong as they might have been. So it might be an interesting thing to try and figure out a way to put something across the top and holds the ends together, and that might give them some rigidity. Harvested all the scapes from the garlic and have already started processing it into Garlic Scape Pesto, which is a wonderful way to preserve it. You can freeze it on cookie sheets, break it up into small little slabs, and freeze it that way. It's great. Peas are looking great. I had a big harvest yesterday. Well, a big harvest for me. And we had them for dinner. They were scrumptious. And even though it's already into July, I thought I'm going to take a gamble and I'm going to plant some more peas. So I put up this pea fence, and I bought, gosh, I don't remember what variety is, but we'll see how they do. Hey, that's a loofah. Yahoo! This is my second planting of carrots, and I think it's much better off. I think waiting for a little bit warmer time frame helped them a lot. I'll have to remember that next year. There's a line in Farmer Boy, part of the Little House series, where father grows corn and refers to a successful growing as knee-high by the 4th of July. We're not there yet. I was finishing up my editing and I thought I better run outside and do the outro because there is a thunderstorm a-brewing, and I promised you guys that the peonies would be blooming by now. And that always seems to go together, doesn't it? Thunderstorm season and peony season. But they are pretty, aren't they? They are worth it. So I will close off for now, and we shall see you again next time. Thanks so much for stopping by.